Okay, so now we're back to a blast from the past, from last unit, arithmetic sequences. So you might be wondering, why is an arithmetic sequence in our unit on linear functions? Well, because an arithmetic sequence is linear, and that's what we're going to take a look at today. We wrote input-output rules for arithmetic sequences, and we wrote now next rules for sequences, but now we're going to find a new equation that's going to help us identify a term in a sequence if we're looking for the 50th or 60th term. And because we don't want to write all those terms out, we want to come up with a formula for that, and that's what we're going to do tonight. Okay, before we start, there's a few, well, there's one major typo on here. So on your sheet, let me find a highlighter for you. All of your terms that have the A's do not have the A subscript on them. So for each of these terms, for these all need to be A1s. So just go through, change that to an A1, change that to an A1. So wherever you see an A, we're just going to change it to an A1. And I mentioned it in class, but I'll mention it again. So all of those A's, we're just going to change to an A1. Okay, we're going to take a look at a sequence. So what is a sequence? A sequence is a set of things, usually numbers, that are in order. Sometimes a sequence can be a sequence of pictures, of colors, but in this case, it's a set of things. In our case, it's numbers that are in order, or a sequential order. They might be getting larger to smaller, they might be getting smaller to larger. So we're going to take a look at this sequence over here. So here we have numbers. This is a number sequence, and they are in order. So 3, 5, 7, and 9. And they're increasing by 2 each time. 3 plus 2 is 5, 5 plus 2 is 7, 7 plus 2 is 9. This is our start. So when we did now next, we called that our start. When we're referring to a sequence, we're going to refer that to that as the first term. In our first term, we usually use the letter A1. So our second term is the next term of the sequence. This is our third term, our fourth term. And the words term, element, and member, they mean the same thing. And this, the 3 dots, just means that it goes on forever. It's infinite. So we're going to look at an arithmetic sequence. And an arithmetic sequence just means that the difference between one term and the next is constant, and that's why it's in this unit on linear functions, because it has a constant rate of change. It's either increasing or decreasing with a constant number. So in the case of our sequence up here, it was increasing with a constant of 2. If it has a constant rate of change, then it's going to be linear. So in other words, we just add the same number or the same value each time we add that infinitely. So we're going to take a look at example 1 right here. So here's our sequence. It's increasing. So it goes from 1 to 4 to 7 to 10 to 13 to 16 to 19. This sequence, what we're adding from one term to get to the next is a plus 3. And we're adding plus 3 each and every single time. That's why it's linear. So we call this sequence, we say it has a difference of 3. And we're going to call that the common difference. The first term in the sequence is always called A1. We called that our start, but we're going to call it the first term. So when we did now next, we called that our start. The D is going to be the common difference. Let's cross it out. And that's just the difference between the two terms. So the difference between 1 and 4 is 3. The difference between 4 and 7 is 3. The difference between 7 and 10 is 3. So from example 1, our first term, or our start, is 1, and our common difference is 3. So this is our start. So, and this is always our first term. That's why we call it A1, so make sure there's a 1 down there. There wasn't on your paper, so you have to write that in. And D we call the common difference. And the common difference can be negative or positive. So let's look over here at this section. So we want to write a rule so that we can find, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 terms here. Well, what if I wanted to find the 100th term? I don't want to keep on adding 3 100 times, so I need to come up with a rule. And the rule down here is what we're going to use, and I'll tell you how we get there in just a second. So a to the n is the term we're looking for. This is our A1, it's our start, it's our first term. D is the common difference, and then we take the number of the term we're looking for and subtract 1 and multiply that times the common difference. So we call this, we can write an arithmetic sequence and we can use this rule over here. So where did this rule come from? So let's go back and look at this example up here. So if my start is 1, the next number right here is my start plus 3. This number is my start, which is 1 plus 3 plus 3. This is 1 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3. This is my start, which is 1 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3. And we can keep on going. So the general rule, we'll go over here, my first term is 1, so there's my first term, it's A1. So to get to the next term I add 3. Well, if I keep on writing these terms with regard to the first terms, there's my start, and then I just have to add 2 common differences. So this is 1 plus 3 plus 3. My third term, or my fourth term, will be my start plus 3 common differences. So we get the terms for 1, 4, 7, and 10. And I'll explain this a little more when we're in class tomorrow, but this is the rule that we're going to use. So let's take a look at this example down here. We have a sequence, and I'm telling you that it's an arithmetic sequence. And it says write the rule and calculate the 4th term. Well, we don't want to calculate the 4th term because, well, yes, we do want to calculate the 4th term. So I have to figure out how am I getting from 3 to 8, from 8 to 13, from 13 to 18. And what I did was we added 5. So our common difference is 5. So I'm going to write that over here. My start is 3. And my common difference is 5. I guess I could write that over here. My start is 3, and my common difference is 5. So if I'm looking for the 4th term, that means I want to know when the number term I'm looking for is n. So I'm looking for a to the 4th. So going back over here, I'm looking for the 4th term, because that's what this asked me to do right here. My starting number is 3, because that's this number right here. To get from one term to the next, I'm adding 5. That's this number right here. We did plus 5. And then what I'm looking for is the fourth term. So if I take 4 minus 1, I'm looking for the fourth term. My n is 4. That's where the 4 came from. I can just plug it in and find the fourth term. So my fourth term is 3 plus 5. 4 minus 1 is 3. I get 3 plus 15. And so my fourth term is 18. And if I look back up here, my fourth term is 18, so we did that right. So the takeaway from this, when you're looking at a sequence, you want to know 3 things. You want to know what your start is, you want to know what your common difference is, and you want to know what term number you're looking for. This is the start, this is the common difference, and this is the term number that we're looking for. So let's do one, and we're going to do several examples in class tomorrow. So let's take a look at the sequence 5, we'll pick an easy one, 10, 15, 20, and we can keep on going and going. So we want to identify our start, and our starting term is 5. How am I getting from one number to the next? I'm adding 5. So that's our common difference. If I want to find the 10th term, that means that my n, or the number term I'm looking for, is 10. So the formula for arithmetic sequence is a to the n equals the first term plus the common difference times 1 minus the term we're looking for. So we're just going to plug those in. So we're looking for the 10th term, so we're looking for a to the 10. Our first term is 5. Our common difference is also 5. We were looking for the 10th term, and from that we're going to subtract 1. So when we work this all out, we get a to the 10 equals 5 plus 5 times 9, because 10 minus 1 is 9. We get a to the 10 equals 5 plus 45. So the 10th term is 50. That's all you got to do. And we're going to practice with this tomorrow in class. And we're going to make a foldable to go into our notebook. Okay, so now it's your turn. Which rule shows the following sequence? So you want to figure out, okay, what's the first term? What's our A1? And then what's the common difference? How are we getting from 2 to 9, from 9 to 16, and 9 to 23? And the second question, what is the common difference? So again, how am I getting from 2 to 5, 5 to 8, 8 to 11, and 11 to 14? Make sure you put these in the Google form. And we're going to spend a couple days on this, so if you feel like you're confused, just focus on a couple things. Focus on finding the common difference, and focus on what the first term is and how we're getting to each next term. And make sure you include your answers on the Google form.